But the fact of the matter is that a worldwide, universal matriarch, a gynocracy that made up of royals, made up of very, very elite people. And that what Ralph Ellis has discovered about the Edessan, the House of Edessa in Parthia, is but one branch of this unknown group. And that later groups, like the Templars, like the Sabbateans and Frankists, emanate. They're servants, they're eunuchs. But to contextualize it with what we're talking about now, this group, one of the things that distinguishes its history was it stood in opposition of this Pauline, right, Josephine, Flavian Fifth Sect. Right? I always in my work like to also show there's a lot of crossover even back then. It wasn't complete rivalry, and the crossovers are very important as people worked out for themselves which one they were going to join. And this would have been even amongst the elite. What that means in hard terms is that certain families within the College of Cardinals, right, within the clergy, right, unbeknownst to the rest of the world, did have their own qualms. It's not a solid fixed thing. There's crossover from both sides. There's, a defecting that's taking place. But that's kind of minor. The main thing to focus on is the most important thing, and that is that there was this rivalry between the Fifth and Fourth Sect, and that the Fourth Sect's profile has now come into vision much more vividly because of the work of Ralph Ellis. And that means I suggest you read all his books. That's right, all of them. But if you can only muster one, then read Jesus of Edessa, the last one that he wrote in this series. And that one will take you through this story. What it means for us is that in this conversation is, again, it's reiterating the fact that this Fourth Sect is has its history, a conspiratorial history. So why it's so important for us to know about it is because all those rebuttals of all those mainstream, people, with their degrees or whatever it might be, and even without the degrees, sitting at the pub no less, are going to tell you you're a nutter, a conspiracy nutter. When one of the greatest conspiracies, going back to Persian times, going back before the advent of Christianity, has recently been revealed by a top thinker, a top writer, a man who's been out there, actually uncovering their tombs or being present when the tombs are uncovered, and it's stitched together this immense history. And so this Fourth Sect is the equal in evil to the Fifth Sect. Now Ralph doesn't make that connection. He doesn't redeem them completely, but he doesn't indict them completely. He's somewhat intrigued by the fact that a lot of queens were involved. But I draw conclusions, that are much more controversial. I'm not letting these people off the hook. I don't think of them as any more positive just because their sect was more liberalistic. Right? These are the Nazarenes, the Nazarene sect. And Mandeans. They're connected with a lot of different Jewish groups and Parthian groups. And it's an incredible study. But then when you become more conspiratorial rather than just historical and neutral, you understand that this is a hidden hand. This group constitutes a hidden hand, a very, very powerful hidden hand. And their role then in world history, we see, becomes very important. But their role then, as I point out in my work, in the criminal history of mankind or humankind, right, becomes important. And that's what the Black Nobility is all about, because it turns out two things are important that we can belabor. One is that their version of liberalism or socialism, they are the real proto-socialists. And so their presence in the world is responsible for radical revolutionary behavior. And I'll stand by that a great many of their agents, through agencies like the Jesuits and the Illuminati and so many other groups, were the ones who then we can track back the incendiary revolutionary spirit of anarchy and nihilism to the group. And then below is this Black Nobility hand, the female Illuminati, Order of Tsarion, as they're often called, right? More colloquially. Now this group, so in other words, what I'm saying is that modern day socialism of the 20th century didn't just appear in a puff of smoke, right? It links to this sect.